Hi, welcome to National Training Providers Toolbox Talks. This video is one in a series of Toolbox Talks available on our YouTube channel. Have a look at the others in the series along with our other free training videos covering all sorts of informative, interesting and useful information. Click like and subscribe so we can let you know when new videos are uploaded. In this Toolbox Talk, I'm covering a quick overview of the ways to secure different types of loads. The selection of the best means of securing a load to a vehicle will depend on the type of load to be carried. The number of anchorage points actually used on a particular journey will depend on the weight and dimensions of the load being carried and its location on the platform in relation to the headboard or other additional means of restraint. If you haven't already, please check out our video on load safety. Using this video, in conjunction with the other, will help throw a more complete picture on the safety of loads and securing them. Now, details of the approved methods for placing and securing the many and varied types of load item are contained in the Department for Transport's Safety of Loads on Vehicles Code of Practice, which should always be referred to. You ought to have a copy really, or access to a copy, so there's a bit of a driver's bible. Okay, let's have a little look at the most common types of load then. Rolls and drums. Rolls or longer cylindrical items should ideally be placed with their axis across the vehicle, bearing in mind the rules on overhang, so that the rolling tendency will be from the front to the rear. Additional dunnage, stopping blocks or wedges should be used to create downward force on the load. Shorter cylindrical items that have a length less than twice the diameter should ideally be placed on end, unless the customer instructs otherwise. This will require additional cross lashings. Coils. Coils loaded with their bore horizontal should be carried on cradles when a special vehicle with a coil well is not available. Movement of the coil on the cradle must be prevented by wedges and the coil secured to the cradle by at least two webbing or steel straps or chains so that the strapping is in contact with both the coil and the wedges. Tensioning devices must also be used. When multiple coils are carried in rows on the vehicle, all coils must be roughly the same height and in contact with the row in front. Each row requires its own lashing. If coils are carried with the bore vertically, a special cruciform clamp should be used and lashed in the usual way. Cases. Boxes must be loaded so that they are prevented from moving in any direction. They should interlock if possible and be loaded to a uniform height. There should be at least one lashing for each row of boxes across the vehicle, and any box which is above the general height of the load must have at least one cross lashing or more depending on the weight and the size. Sacks. Sealed sacks should be laid on their sides with alternate layers in opposite directions. In any event, no more than two successive layers should be in the same direction. The load should be of uniform height where possible. There must be at least one cross lashing for each sack length. Loads of sacks should be sheeted if possible. Open sacks should be loaded and secured in a similar way with cross lashings for each layer. Bulk solids. Bulk solids in open vehicles and skips will need no securing other than that provided by the vehicle body or skip, but the load should always be sheeted to prevent loose materials being lost from the vehicle. This will also prevent rain from getting onto the load, an important point because although most bulk loads such as sand and gravel will not be harmed by the rain, they may well be wet when they're loaded, the presence of extra water, like after a heavy storm, will increase the weight of the load considerably and could be sufficient to make the vehicle overweight. Sheeting of empty open bulk vehicles when moving empty will dramatically reduce wind resistance and improve fuel consumption. Mixed cargo. When a load is composed of different items, each part of the load must be secured in a manner suitable to the type of item. Longitudinal lashings must be adequate for the total weight of the load, and separators must be used so that no part of the load can move forward independently. Small, relatively heavy items such as small castings, if not palletized or caged, should be securely restrained and carried on sided vehicles. The headboard, sideboards and tailboard must be higher than the load and must be strong enough to withstand the forces generated by the vehicle's motion. Palletized cargo. Palletized loads must be stable and freestanding prior to any load being secured. The goods themselves must be secured to the pallet by lashings or straps, and may be tightly wrapped with plastic film to retain the integrity of the stack. Both pallet and load should then be secured to the vehicle. As a general rule, goods carried within curtain-sided vehicles should be secured as if they were being carried on an open flatbed vehicle. For high bulk, low density palletised loads, the use of fixed internal load restraint webbing straps installed to a central longitudinal overhead rail with curtain-sided vehicles can be a useful method of restraint in some circumstances. ISO containers and containers constructed to BS 3951 standards should only be carried on vehicles fitted with twist locks. A minimum of 4 twist locks should be used for each container carried. BS 5073 gives a guide to storage of goods in freight containers. Carriage of meat. Vehicles used for the carriage of meat carcasses should be equipped with rails and sliding hooks and be adequately lit. The rails should be fitted with fixed hinged stops at 1 to 1.5 metre intervals. When loading the vehicle, the carcasses should be distributed evenly on all rails and the stops applied. If part offloading takes place, the remaining load should be redistributed evenly and the stops reapplied. The floor of the vehicle should be kept clear of blood and any other slippery matter. Bulk liquids. Liquids in bulk must be carried in a properly baffled and compartmented tanker or in intermediate bulk containers on a general cargo vehicle. The use of long wide tanks part filled with liquid must be avoided, as although the tank itself may not move, the movement of the liquid within it when the vehicle is in motion can produce a dangerous effect on the stability of the vehicle. Flat sheet. Mixed sizes of sheet or plate should be arranged so that the smallest is on the top and at the front so it cannot slide forward. Oiled sheets should be bundled and packed in steel sheets to form a box around the bundle, referred to as trumpeting. Lashings must be in firm contact with the top surface of the load, and a load that is level with or lower than the side rails of the vehicle must be raised off the floor by timber packing. Containers. ISO containers should only be carried on vehicles fitted with the special twist locks that engage with the corner castings on the container. A minimum of 4 twist locks must be used on each container carried. The carriage of containers on ordinary flatbed vehicles is problematic because the container rests on the corner castings rather than a wide flat base. This increases point loading on the bed of the carrying vehicle and also reduces frictional resistance. Oversized loads. Where a load exceeds the dimensions of the vehicle, special precautions are necessary in addition to correct load securing. High loads. Vehicles with a travelling height in excess of 3 metres must have a notice showing the height in the cab or documents giving details of a safe route. This will include vehicles that are not themselves over 3 metres high but are carrying a load that is. Long and wide loads. Loads that project more than a certain distance to the front, rear or sides of the vehicle must carry marker boards. Make sure that you're aware of the rules or have access to them to refer to as necessary. There we go, a brief overview on securing different types of loads. As mentioned, it's a good idea to check out our other video on safe loading. Thanks for watching our Toolbox talk on how to secure your load. Don't forget to click like and subscribe so we can let you know when new videos are uploaded, and check out our other free training videos including more Toolbox talks and other interesting, informative and useful videos. Thanks a lot, see you soon.